All right, we are diving into checking accounts here. And first of all, I just have to kind of ask, have you ever had a checking account? Do you currently have a checking or a savings account? Maybe consider, our Gisa Credit Union at College Place High School is having a promotion right now for very limited activity, like setting up an account, having the app installed in your phone, and doing 5 transactions. You can get $100 dropped into your account. It's an amazing deal. Um, and then what are the advantages? Like, what's the point of having a checking or savings account as opposed to having cash? Well, I'm hoping you're thinking about maybe security, ease of transferability, and any more. I think about when I first got my first checking account, most of the money that was taken out of my checking account was through checks, like we're talking about today. However, like an individual like myself, I think the ratio of my wife and I between the actual checks we write and the use of a debit card, which pulls money right out of our account, is probably 20 to 1. So we find that we write very few checks, and we actually do electronic checks through our credit union. So, for example, I was sitting with my cousin in Colorado 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, "Hey, I owe you money for these tickets, these football tickets for Air Force." And I didn't have a check with me. And so I said, "Oh, well, shoot, I'll just go into my credit union online and send you a check electronically, and it'll be here in 3 days." Pretty easy, right? So transactions, bank transactions have definitely changed in the last 20 or 30 years. Of course, now you've got things like Google Pay and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, having a checking account is way more secure. Cash may be easier to transfer between persons. Then you have to ask yourself, what does a business do? And we're going to talk a little bit about this in the chapter. What does a business do to control cash? How do they know the cash they received and paid? And I'm talking about green stuff here is being tracked and being secured. Because you probably read articles in the paper about cash that wasn't secure with a business. And then what is the process of cashing a check? So if somebody writes me a check, how would I cash that or deposit it? All right. So some things to think about there. Um, what happens if the numerical amounts on the check don't match the written out part right below them? Which one holds true? Have you never even thought about that with checks? Let's kind of take a look at some of those questions as we dive into checking here. So we're going to talk about recording a deposit on a check stub. Again, we're assuming we're using a checkbook that has a little check stub option over on the left. If you have a business account, that's probably a good idea for tracking purposes. And again, we're talking about simple sole proprietorship, one person operation. We're not talking about a big corporation here. They just have the one checkbook, and that's kind of the control of money in and out of the business. How do we endorse checks? Shoot, what does endorsing really even mean? Blank, special, and restrictive endorsements. How do we prepare a check stub and a check? So we're going to look at all that kind of stuff here. How businesses use cash. Well, they use cash for small cash payments in and out, something we call petty cash, or just like like I said, day-to-day amounts maybe coming out of the till. But what are the issues related to cash movement in a business? Well, one thing is there's a chance of recording errors or having errors with cash. Ease of transfer without any question about ownership. So yeah, it's really easy to transfer. I've got a green bill in my wallet and I give it to you and now it's yours. There's no question who it now belongs to. But then there's also the loss of cash as it's moved from one place to another. Cash is hard to have a paper trail on or to keep track of because it's so easy to move around. If you lose a $10 bill on the floor and somebody else picks it up, there's really no absolute proof that that $10 bill was yours. Your name's not on it. You don't have a piece of paper that says that it belonged to you. You don't Probably don't have its serial number written down anywhere, right? Anyway, and then safety measures as far as, again, securing cash within a business. We're talking about checking accounts. A business form ordering a bank to pay cash from bank account is known as a check. So a check is just simply I'm ordering my bank to send money to somebody else through their bank. So when we write a check, we say paid to the order of name of person, and my bank is then going to pay their bank, which is ultimately going to get in their account the money from my account to theirs. There's a big, you probably don't even know about this. There's this big clearinghouse every day that all these checks get cleared between these banks. I remember working for a bank in downtown Spokane that I had to manage and reconcile, balance up their clearinghouse account every day, millions of dollars moving around in accounts. A bank account for which payments can be ordered by a depositor is called a checking account. So I have this account set up where I can order money to be sent out to somebody else through a checking account. Opening a checking account, generally not generally, the bank will have a signature card where you have a copy of your signature on file. So if there's any questions about the check being valid, they will pull the signature card and compare it to your signature on the check. And of course, when you open up a checking account, not only do they give you checks, but they also give you deposit slips that as you receive checks or cash or coins, even, you can deposit those into your checking account. Now, again, here's something else that's changed: mobile deposit. I whip out my cell phone. I got a check in front of me. I endorse it. I say for deposit only, STCU, Spokane Teachers Credit Union, STCU mobile banking. I sign my name, and then I get my phone app out and I deposit it with my phone and I take a picture of it. And I can just rip it up. I want to make sure I rip it up and throw it away so no one else tries to get a hold of it. So depositing even has changed tremendously with mobile banking and online stuff, right? I can now deposit a check. So like here at school, sometimes I get reimbursements from College Place Public Schools for expenses of stuff that I had, and they write me a check back. And I get the check, I endorse the back of it, and take a picture of it. It's pretty handy. So deposits have changed over time. A bank form that lists the checks, currency, and coins and account holders adding to the bank account is called a deposit slip. Now, this is going to probably hold a lot more true with businesses because they might be receiving checks as a form of payment. Of course, they're also receiving debit cards and credit cards through what's called their merchant account as money coming in as well. So now businesses have different things they have to keep track of as far as money coming into the business. And here's a typical deposit slip where you have currency, coins, checks, and here's a room for 3 checks and a total. And if you ever look at the back of a deposit slip, if say you've got like tons and tons and tons of checks you're depositing at once, there's a form on the back of the deposit slip where you can enter like 15 more checks on the back, which I have done before for like fundraisers here at school, where all of a sudden I got 20 checks I'm depositing in one day. That's where I need a little bit more room than just 3 lines on the check. And 22-1508, in case you're wondering what that is, those are the numbers. The person that's writing me the check, those are the numbers at the top of the check, which identify what check it is. The bank can go, oh, this is $2,000, and that's the check this goes. That's cross-referencing what's on my deposit slip with the actual check being written to me. Okay? All righty. Deposit recorded on a check stub. So here we go. We have now, this is our check stub here in purple here. Right balance brought forward on the check stub. Now in this case, we just have 0 brought forward. Write the date of the deposit on the stub. Write the amount of the deposit on the stub. Calculate the subtotal. I'm going to go back there really quick. Now, that's on the stub. Now, this stub is next to and attached to a check. Well, we haven't written the check yet, have we? So down below here, once it becomes applicable, we would write amount this check for the next check that we write, assuming we're writing checks on a regular basis. Otherwise, we're putting in a lot of deposit slips with deposits without any checks with them. All right? Again, this is very manual system. We're learning theory here. Endorsements. Now, we're going to do an exercise here in a moment related to endorsements. The signature stamp on the back of a check transferring ownership is called an endorsement. Now, businesses will probably have pre-printed stamps on them to signify the endorsement on the back. All right. 3 types of commonly used endorsements. First of all, we have a blank endorsement, which we'll demonstrate, special endorsement, and restrictive endorsement. You have to be careful about how you endorse a check, because if I do a blank endorsement and just sign my name on the back, then somebody else could pick up that check and theoretically cash it or deposit it. It's the same as cash. My name on it really doesn't matter anymore because now I've endorsed it. I basically said I'm forfeiting my right to this check. So be careful about that. So first of all, we have a blank endorsement. Endorsement consisting only of the endorser's signature is called a blank endorsement. Okay? I'm going to pause this just for a second here to give a demonstration. So I want to show you my bank account here. Here we go. My online banking. And down here is a check that we wrote. To kind of give you a real life example here. And I come down here and it says I wrote check down here. Here's my checking account, check 8079. Hold on here. This just worked a second ago. Trust me. Trust me, I'm a doctor. No, here we go. There's a check that I wrote to College Place Public Schools, and I wrote down here in the memo a Life Flight membership, so they have a group plan for if you need a helicopter service to take you to the hospital. Wrote that for $59. Notice how I wrote the check, I dated it, paid to College Place Public Schools. This is a little grainy, but this is a scanned version, right, of my check. My credit union doesn't send me my checks back like back in the day that they did with your bank statements. All right. I wrote the amount 5900, and then I wrote it out 50-9 and 00 over 100. Write a line through the end of it so nobody can like add stuff in there. All right. I signed it down here, and then, like I said, bottom left, I have my memo. Now, just a couple things to point out here. Down here in the extreme bottom left, 325182700, that is what's called the routing number, or the routing number. Identifying my specific bank and branch for Spokane Teachers Credit Union. And in the bottom right is my account number and the check number. Okay? All righty. Then we get into this with for deposit only, College Place, school district, blah, blah, blah. They have a stamp over here on the right where they gave an endorsement. Okay. And then here you can see it moving through the clearinghouse. It says Baker Boyer National Bank, drawee. So the College Place Public Schools has their account with Baker Boyer Bank, and they then sent that check to Spokane Teachers Credit Union, which is probably this stuff down here in the bottom left, and it went from one bank to the other. Kind of interesting, huh? All right. So there's my account right there. So a blank endorsement looks like this. Michael Delgado. Bam. Blank endorsement. And it's as good as cash right now. Anybody could pick that up. Okay. An endorsement indicating a new owner of a check is called a special endorsement. Paid to the order of Helen Goldsmith, Michael Delgado. Special endorsements are sometimes known as Wait, hold on here. I just messed up. Hold on. Special endorsements are sometimes known as, there we go, endorsements in full. Special endorsements. Paid to the order of so-and-so, and then the person whose check it is written to signs their name. Now, banks kind of have to get kind of funny sometimes when they start having funny endorsements or people signing and reassigning checks. And after a while, they're like, we're done. You have to do something different here. And finally, we have a restrictive endorsement. This is probably the most common one, the one that you would use more than anything else. Like I said, on the back of my checks, I write for deposit only, STCU mobile deposit. I have to use those exact words or they're not going to accept it when I have deposited through my app. All right. So restrictive endorsement, you're basically saying, yeah, I'm endorsing this check, but with these restrictions. This can only be deposited in the account of Delgado Web Services. If somebody gets a hold of this check, it's going to be useless to them. It can only end up in Delgado Web Services account for deposit. And this might be, this purple writing right here might be part of a stamp that that company has. All right, so completing the check stub and check. And again, completing the check stub should be done before writing the check. Here's the deposit that we brought in that we showed here a couple slides back. Okay. And also, just a reminder, the for, and we do this in personal finance, writing something in the for line, you don't have to write anything there. Nothing's legally requiring you to do that. But it's also helpful, and you saw that when I wrote my check for Life Flight. It's always good to note what the check is for. So if you go back and go, what was this amount for? I could maybe sometimes I write two different checks for the same amount for two entirely different things. So noting that is really helpful. Okay. And then how to calculate a new balance. We bring our subtotal forward of 2,000 right here. We have a $165 check. We pop over here. We write that up in our stub. Check number 165, January 2nd, 2000, whatever, East Side Supplies. We wrote that for supplies. Now, banks also now have carbon copies of checks that might somewhat take the place of this top part. We write the amount in for the check, and then we carry the balance forward. So kind of look what that looks like. Write the amount of the check on the stub, write the date of the check on the stub. Again, it's really helpful to get into a rhythm or a practice procedure of doing the thing the same way every time. Write to whom the check is to be paid on the stub, East Side Supplies. Record the purpose on the stub. That's very important. Write the amount of the check on the stub down here, and then you have your new balance. 6 steps. There you go. Now, this is, of course, if we have all this stuff. Well, I guess we would do this every time that we write a check, correct? Completing the check stub and check, write the date the check is issued. And, of course, now we're writing the check. Who's it to? The amount written out. Write the amount in words. Again, put that line in through the end, through the dollars, so people don't try to slide something in there on you. All right? Write the purpose of the check and sign it, of course. Sometimes they'll check your signature against the signature card. Oh, recording a voided check. What happens if we write a check and then mess up, which is going to be happen all the time? You want to keep those checks in sequence. You're not going to destroy the check. You might just write a line through the check on your checkbook. Some people in extreme will cut out the signature area. That's in an extreme. So when I put like voided checks that I give to like my employer to do a direct deposit setup, and they would say, well, I have to have a voided check. I'll take one of my checks and I'll cut out the signature line just as an added security. Record the date in the date column. Write void in the account title. Check number and the document number. So we're basically saying we recognize there was a check there in our sequence because on your journal, you want to have every check in there, whether you actually wrote it or not. That way you're not wondering, oh, what happened to check 24? Because people wonder, what, is it missing? Is it still out there? Did we write it? Did somebody forget to write it in? No, it was void. We messed up when we wrote it. Place a check mark in the post reference column because nothing's going to be posted. And again, you may think this is kind of extreme. Well, yeah, maybe, but accounting is a very exact science. And when things don't follow procedure, it leads to more problems. That's why we're getting in the habit of doing these things. Place a dash in the cash credit column, which means there's nothing that's going to happen here, nor will there ever be anything happen here. Let's make sure that nothing gets entered in cash credit for that check not being written. There's three types of endorsements: blank endorsement, special endorsement, and restrictive endorsement. List of steps for preparing a check stub, and here you go. Write the amount, write the date, you have the 2 and the 4 line, the amount of the check, calculate the new checking account balance on the stub. Preparing a check, date, amount to, write the amount in figures, write the amount in words, draw a line from there to the word dollars, write the purpose of the check, and sometimes you might write quite a bit in there to make sure you know what it was exactly for. Then, of course, sign the check. All right. Now let's go look at MindTap here. I am in week 12 here, and I may be out of sequence here, but I'm going to working papers in week 12, and you may need to pause this video. Okay, so here we go. Working papers 5-1. I'm going to do work together here. And first of all, we have endorsements. Now I'm going to go back and cheat and look at my notes here a little bit. For each of these situations, prepare the appropriate endorsement, enter student signature in cells where you would enter the endorser's signature. A blank endorsement, right here, student's signature. You know what I might do? I might put that to my clipboard. Copy. Okay. That's a blank endorsement right there. We're done with the blank endorsement. Write a special endorsement to transfer a check to Clara Wong. Okay, so we'd say pay to the order of Clara Won. Let's spell it right, Kwon. And then we put our student signature in there. Special endorsement. Pay to the order of, who we give them the check to, and we sign it. Restrictive endorsement, to deposit a check in the account of Grantsburg Accounting. Say for deposit only to the account of Grantsburg Accounting, and then our signature, student signature. Interesting signature. Okay, that would be a restrictive endorsement. That's the one you're going to probably use most often. Okay, grade step 1. How did I do? Please tell me I got that right. I did. Next step. Record the balance brought forward on check 151 2145 2145.88. Record a deposit of 316. Okay, we'll just do that right away here. All right. So we're talking about the date is June 30. I think that's correct. 6:30. Deposited 316. I didn't practice this, by the way. Subtotal, we have to record our subtotals. We add those up, right? 2, 4, 6, 1.88. 2461.88. Subtotal. Other, I'm not sure what other is going to be. We don't have other. 2461.88. All right, then we are writing the amount of the check for 148. Actually, we need to do that up here first. Amount is 148. Date is June 30 to A1 computers for repairs. All right. Then we'd say amount this check 148. Subtract that. End up with 2313.88. And check my math later on, right? Then I need to write the check, of course. And I'm going to say June 30, pay to the order of A1 computers, 148. 100, didn't like the 100. 100, 48, and 00 over 100. I would go like this, but it doesn't like me doing that. Can I go like that? No, it doesn't let me do that either. Okay, 4 repairs, and then, of course, student signature down here. How did I do? I sure hope I didn't mess up here. Wrote the check, have it on the stub, have what it's for, have the deposit over here that I made, have the carried forward amount. See how I did. Ooh, I got 3 out of 3. That's awesome.